to actually go into present mode. Brilliant, the slide's up. So what the heck is a people lead? That is what I'm going to talk about today. Managing engineering teams without technical knowledge. A bit about me, my name is Franziska Hauck. I know a lot of you people who are in the call, which is great. Also revised some slides with some of you. So all the new people that don't know me, this is me. I am a so-called people lead in engineering, and I'm also a freelance consultant on the side, mostly in DevRel and community. And very recently, I became an advisor for Coyote, which is an engineering hub. They are shortly getting started with a bootcamp, coding bootcamp. You can find me on Twitter under the handle _frenzied. And just to clarify that initial question we had, frenzied as in synonym for frenzied, because that's what I am. So what I currently also do is I'm knee deep into developer insights in Germany. If you're interested in knowing a bit about the stats about developers job market and so forth, preferred languages, then I'd be happy to chat a bit more about that. And I'm also frequently talking about matters of accessibility, and specifically in that context also accessibility for developers, what they need to thrive in the workplace. That kind of touches Tamara's talk as well. So managing engineering teams without technical knowledge. What the heck? How can you even do that? How is that even possible? This is what I'm going to tell you about today. So when we look at sort of the traditional path that you take to be a leader, team lead of an engineering team, is that you start out with some sort of technical education, you go to uni, you go to boot camp, you teach yourself whatever it is that you do. You enter oftentimes as a junior, go via intermediate to being a senior, then being a lead engineer, and then finally a team lead, and maybe going on to be a head of, director, or CTO. And then my path is sort of a bit unusual. And I started out as a community manager. I actually studied heritage management in my master's degree. So my master's thesis was about managing historical battlefields. And I cannot take anything away from that for my current job, maybe the stakeholder management. So after that, I ended up working as a community manager in tech, mostly on domain, which is basically building up a forum or community on your own platform. And then I went over to, in that role, in being a senior community manager, designing a trainee program for trainees in communications, PR, and community. So that was my sort of first interchange with, or basically first touch with managerial functions. Then I became a project manager for a while, mostly focused on customer success management. And then I became DevRel Regional Lead DACH at Google for the community programs. And also in that area, we had a lot of people on the team that did not have any technical background whatsoever. So we were a really, really good mix of people that had and that didn't have, which did not necessarily matter because we were managing community programs, which does not require technical knowledge. And then I'm also, as I said, a consultant on the side, mostly in DevRel, but also other realms. And now, people lead. What does that mean? What is that? What does that encompass? Basically, when we look at what people leads do, we are team managers of technical teams. That is what we do. I say engineering teams, but I actually have the full spectrum. So currently I manage 3 teams, and I have front-end, back-end engineers. I have QA engineer as well. I have designers. I have POs. They are all in my team. So it's a bit more cross-sectional than that, but in essence, they are technical teams. So what we do there is we manage these teams from a disciplinary point of view, mostly. So all the things that you would imagine a manager to do, but also from a coaching perspective. And then there is sort of the question of, okay, you take care of personal development, but what do you actually do for the technical bits? And for that, we have our wonderful tech leads, which I'm very happy to have. So we have basically, my company is a dual leadership system where the people lead is the disciplinary manager of the teams. And we have 1 or several tech leads per team. We also have principal tech leads who take care of sort of the wider vision. And we also have functional leads for professions other than engineers. So We have a design functional lead. We have a PO coach who coaches the POs from that perspective. So they have not just me as a spokesperson or point of contact, but they also have someone to go to when they actually need functional knowledge or functional support. So a people lead, in essence, what we do is we manage teams, we coach teams, both from a team perspective, so larger teams, but also from an individual perspective. So as you can imagine, I have a lot of one-on-ones. I currently have 22 people. So my week is quite filled with a lot of meetings and talking about individual progression, goal setting, and so forth. We appraise, so we do the whole appraisal process, and we do this by 360-degree feedback. So in essence, when we look at someone's performance, we look at it always from two sides of the coin, which is professional and which is functional. And then I also already said it, we set goals. So in collaboration with the tech lead or the functional lead, we together set goals. As people leads, we have the full responsibility for the professional goals, and together with the functional lead, we have the responsibility for the functional goals. And we are also the ones who basically check if progression happens and how we can support along that line. What we don't do is we don't do any estimating, planning whatsoever. So this is all in the realm of the teams, either because they take autonomous decisions or in the hands of the wider department and all the people that are responsible for the technical side of things. We don't code. We have people leads on the team that used to be coders in the past, that used to be engineers, front end and data in our case, but via the route of becoming an engineering manager, they then became a people lead, and they don't code, at least in their professional realm anymore. They might code on the side. I haven't yet asked, but that is also possible. We take all kinds of team decisions. So when it comes to setup of teams, where people need to be placed or where they are best placed, that's also in our realm. And we don't coach on agile methods or practices. There are some people leads that do. I've recently seen job ads that talk about this, where they actually do coach on that, but we don't. In principle, all the agile practices are not in our hands specifically. So, but how do you even do all of this? Assessment. As I said, we have great people on our team, functional leads, who help us with that. So within that 360-degree feedback that we collect usually twice a year, but also sometimes ad hoc, we are able to get their opinion, to get their impression of the person. And we also, within 360-degree feedback, it's not just the functional lead, it's also peers who give feedback. So the person who is assessed now knows from a lot of perspectives how they are performing technically and professionally. And also hiring. How can you hire if you don't know about the technology? That's also a very interesting question. When we were on full on hiring mode before this whole Corona thing happened, I had up to 5 interviews per week sometimes, and again, across the board. And when it comes to hiring, of course, as people leads, we look more towards the professional than towards the functional side of things. So I did have occasional interviews where I was the only person interviewing, and mostly from that perspective. But usually we interview in pairs at least. So we do have a functional person and a people lead in the interviews there. Apart from, let's say, the technical interviews where it's just peers or just functional leads assessing. And also what we look for, obviously, is also a team fit, because I know my team's best. I know what they need, what they need for, let's say, resource-wise, but also personality-wise. That's a big factor that I'm not saying is ignored in the industry. I've seen very good examples, but as people leads, obviously, we can put a lot of focus on this aspect because we have these kind of expertises with the team. And personal development. So how can you actually help an engineer develop? For me, the most important thing, and this is something that I've consistently seen in my teams and outside of my teams, is that to have a good working atmosphere. And this is what we as people leads are also there for. So we do mediations if applicable. We, as I said, coach one-on-one in the meetings that we have, and that anything that you can imagine a good engineer needs to have that can also both be functional and professional. That can, for example, be providing feedback or being open to feedback, um, uh, celebrating milestones, for example, being more driven overall. Also, when we look towards career progression, when somebody has a desire to move up, then we support obviously with what do you need from that perspective, and how can you thrive in that organization? How can we support you along those lines? But again, everything that's functional, I always consult with the functional lead, so that we make sure that this is aligned with the interest of the person that wants to progress, and also with the that matches the company and the needs of the company, and also the kind of opportunities and options we can provide. So apart from, let's say, team management and individual coachings, some of the initiatives that we as people look at are in the realm of standardization, change management, and finding the synergies. So oftentimes I've had countless discussions with engineering managers about, oh my God, now I don't even get to code anymore. I have to take care of all the organizational stuff and I don't like it. This is basically what we as people leads are for. We take care of that organizational stuff and we do it gleefully, which is sort of one of the, I would say, requirements for the role, to actually be very enthusiastic about these kind of things, which again, I have a lot of engineering managers seen do. That is fabulous, but also had discussions from another perspective. So this is basically, well, these are the areas that we take care of, that we look at. We also consult, obviously, with members in the department, with C-level. So we are also acting a bit as translators in that area. So to summarize it, who actually has people leads? Obviously, Signavio, the company where I work at, but I've also seen it at Flixbus. I've also exchanged with a person who's people lead at Flixbus. I have seen it recently at Lichtblick, at Grenke, at Around Home, and also very recently at DKB, the big bank. Zalando used to have people leads, but they discontinued that. So we've had quite a bit of contact with people leads that used to be at Zalando as well. So will there be more companies with more people leads? Who knows? We don't know. We know that it works for us. It might not work in every setting, but it might work in some settings excellently. And it depends on some kind of the environment that you manage to have and the input that you put to the role, and then you can succeed. I can definitely say that my direct reports give great feedback on the availability of someone who's not just their disciplinary manager, but also their coach. And we have, in that case, a lot of resources to work on personal development, which I very, very much enjoy, also doing my coaching certification now. So this is, I've always said that engineers are basically my favorite people on earth, and being able to support them and to see their progress and see that they can attain their goals is really, really fulfilling for me at the end of the day, and something that I love doing. So yeah, that's it. That's what people leads do. And if you have any questions, then now would be the time to ask them.